welcome. I am Kamau Kujichagulia, and I welcome you to On the Case with Kamau Kujichagulia, where each week we sit down with a personage from Trenton or from somewhere in the world, the Black world usually, and we talk to them. We try to get them to tell you what they're about, what they think about their lifestyles and the Black people's lifestyles, and we just try to have a conversation. So we hope you enjoy this evening. This evening we have Brother Baye Kemet with us, who will be sharing some of his thoughts and some of the things that he's doing. A great man that has started schools. His main thing is that his love for Black people. Okay, okay, that's his main thing. I mean, he's done things within that framework, but I believe that's it. That's his main thing is love for Black people. So we're going to have him on. Let me bring on my co-host, Michael Harmon. Hello, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Pop?
I'm doing pretty good, son. Doing pretty good.
I see.
What's been going on here lately? Oh, we have a new city council.
Yes. Congratulations, Jazzy Edwards, Yasminelli Gonzalez, and Crystal Feliciano.
I still don't think that who was that? Michelle Williams. I think that is still in flux.
Okay.
Because Algie has requested a recount and everything, but I think pretty much the council has been set and is ready to go. Ready to lead us into a different era. Hopefully a good era.
Real right.
Because I keep looking at around Trenton. I just don't see. Now I live out in West Trenton, so I don't know if anything has changed in West Trenton in the past 4 years. I don't know. I ride around and I look, and everything looks a little bit worse than it did. Because
right.
if you don't put energy into things, then
falls apart.
That's right.
Falls apart.
Well, anyway, let me see if Baye is around. There he is. Let's bring Baye on. There he is. What's up, brother?
All right, greetings. Thank you. How you doing?
All right. How are you doing?
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. Everything is great, man. Family is great. Children are great. So life is good, man.
And that's what it's all about, brother. That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
So, why don't you tell our audience who you are and what you're about?
Okay. As broadly as stated, I'm Baye Kemet. Born and raised in Trenton, Wilbur section. Went to PJ Hill, went to Junior 2. Later on, went to Notre Dame High School, graduated, and then I went on to Clark Atlanta University, HBCU, Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
Where I began to really cultivate who I am politically, socially and politically. Where I got my grounding. It's funny. It's a very interesting story. My very first week that I was in college, I was introduced. I went to a lecture and I saw Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. I had never heard this man's name before. Never. I mean, this is 1992, and I never heard this man's name before. And I arrive on campus and I see Dr. Ben. Subsequently, coincidentally, I have a picture from the Nubian News with me and Dr. Ben when he came to the West Ward Community Center, I think maybe a month after Dr. Clark passed.
Okay.
I still have that picture in the frame in my living room.
The Nubian News.
Hey.
So after some years of working in charter schools and worked for Granville Charter School, I worked in Philadelphia. I started the Garvey School in 2003. In 2007, we expanded our school to include it was a high school before we opened up an elementary, middle school portion. Makita came over and we started the school together in 2007. And then 2010, we moved over onto Taylor Street, which used to be Little People's Action School, and before that, it used to be New Approach Method, which is NAM, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But this building has been in the hands teaching Black children since the late 60s. All right. And so we were a succession of Black institutions that were in that building. And then in 2000, so we ran the Garvey School for 16 years until we relocated to Atlanta. And then I'll say around 2008 or so, we started our West African dance and drum production company called performing arts company called Egun Omode. And so that's pretty much our driving force now. We have a youth West African dance and drum performing arts company. We tour up and down the East Coast, and we're in Trenton quite frequently, serving Trenton residents through African dance and drum. We have a lot of programs we do with Owls, and we do in Trenton Public Schools and Joyce Kilmer. We're always at Joyce Kilmer. We are not at enough Trenton Public Schools. It's like a lot of the principals just turn a blind ear, a deaf ear to residents of Trenton knocking on your door and saying, hey, we have programs for your children, for our children. They'll bring a group from North Jersey or South Jersey or from out of state before they'll bring somebody from Trenton. And people from New York City and Philadelphia call us to come perform. So we get more performances in Newark than we will right in Trenton. We'll get more performances in Princeton than we will in Trenton. All those years in our productions that my wife wrote, we were doing productions at Passage Theater. We were fighting and scraping to get into many of these places like the State Museum, War Memorial. They would just always close the door to us. We just got fed up of trying to, scratch and crawl into supplant African culture, Pan-African philosophy and teaching in Trenton. It was just too much. And so off the heels of African People's Action School, off the heels of Timbuktu Academy, off the heels of New Approach Method, the Garvey School was the last succession of African-centered education in the city of Trenton. And all of us struggled. African People's Action School, and I'm sure Timbuktu probably had the best, they existed at the best time in the late 70s, or the 80s, but by the 90s, when the charter schools were open, it decimated not only small African-centered schools, but Catholic schools and private schools altogether. And so now we're in Atlanta.
Okay. Now I just want you, is Egun Omode?
Egun. Okay. So essentially it means children of the ancestors in Yoruba. Yoruba is a language from the southwest of Nigeria, which we travel to quite frequently and study the culture. In fact, we're trying to take 15 of our youth and parents to West Jaffa, to Nigeria this August.
Yeah, I would love to take one of them trips with you, brother. I'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah, we do annual trips to West Africa, to Ghana. So
you recently got back, right?
Yeah, I just recently got back this week, so I'm still on jet lag. We spend a lot of time there and just really trying to create another reality for Black people across the world. I mean, we just don't really, our family and many are Black people, especially here in Atlanta, is Black. Everybody and their mother goes to Ghana. Whereas in Trenton, it's like pulling teeth to try to get people to get on their passport, stamp that passport, get on that plane.
Yeah, you seem to be breaking up, brother.
You said I'm breaking up?
Sounds good to me. You're all right with me.
Yeah, somebody has a mic that's bleeding. I can hear the feedback from the mic.
Yeah, I hear that too. Oh, yeah. Look, we can only do what we can do. Now, okay, I just want to throw in there before we get too far away that in Juneteenth, we're gonna have the African American parade here in Trenton. So maybe Egun Omode can come up and join our parade in June. But I know you're busy. I just want to throw that out there. Now you say you go to Ghana a lot. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go back a little bit. You say that the atmosphere in Trenton is different, totally different than it is like in Atlanta. That you accept it more for your Black philosophy is accepted more there than it is right here in Trenton. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, most certainly. I mean, Atlanta is a city that has had decades upon decades upon decades of a direct development of Black culture. And so we're talking about economically, you're talking about one of the hubs of Black growth and development, Black banks, you had Black insurance companies, you had Black people that just concentrated their money in towards the development of Black people exclusively. We also had, Black colleges that are here that also add to the culture of Atlanta. So Clark Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse, Morris Brown. So that played a major role into the education and the development of the city. And you talk about politically. I mean, you're looking at the civil rights movement is Atlanta. So you can just go down the line of many of the areas in social society where Atlanta kind of like checks off that mark. And so it's had years of development. And so when we say anything about doing something Black and African, you will be surprised the average person will be receptive to something like that. Whereas you say that in Trenton, people be like, that African stuff, still to this day. We're still trying to get people to even understand that this is Africa. We go to teach in Trenton, people are just really can't see beyond, right what their present condition is, So it was really difficult to kind of talk about Africa and African drums and African culture when people are just trying to feed themselves every day. We know that 11% of Trenton has college graduates. So if your parent and your parents' parent aren't graduates and don't really understand college and just education past high school, then a lot of times high school is the barometer for success. All right. Even when we do our college tours. So we've been doing college tours since 1999. We do college tours annually. Last year, we took 82 students and parents on our college tour up and down the East Coast, our HBCU college tour. This year, we're probably up and around 70 students already. And so, and we have 2 buses, right? And so, Trenton is one of the hardest places to get students to go. A lot of times we've had scholarships for students and we would call the house and the parents like the child doesn't want to go. And whereas people are calling us from New York City, Newark, all around North Jersey, South Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and they'll pay and they're asking the right questions and come, really with 4 students and wanting their children to, experience an opportunity outside of Trenton. And so it's just so many situations that's going on in terms of how challenging it is to get the average family and the average student on board with anything other than what's right in front of them.
I see. Now, thinking of the Black culture, being here, raised here in Trenton, the first time I went to Southside Chicago, it was like culture shock. Mm-hmm. Because, like you say, you go there and there are Black banks, and Black people, they're in these banks. You go to a supermarket, it's all Black people. You go to wherever you go, it was all Black people. And the first time I saw that, I was just totally thrown off, but my whole perception of what was going, it was I loved it, mind you. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. You go to Africa. You were saying, we were talking earlier during the show, before the show, that the forward movement for Black people is outside of Africa. What do you mean
outside
by that?
Of America?
Outside of America. I'm sorry. Yeah, outside of America. What do you mean by that?
I mean, we talked about this before we got on. Just really the Caribbean, Central and South America, and Africa. Black people can thrive better outside of America. First of all, when you take the American dollar and you take it anywhere around the world, you're now living with a higher standard of living, right? And so you go to Ghana, for example, the exchange rate right now is 12-1. All right. So $1 American dollar, right? That now becomes $12 in that country. And so, that you can take that money and now begin to invest in areas that you probably cannot invest in America. To buy land in Ghana, you're talking about, depending on where you are, it could be $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, all the way up to $10,000, up to $50,000 for one plot, right? And so it's just a fact that you could think about buying a plot of land, which is about 100. So it's like 5 or 6 row houses in Trenton, right? Going all the way square footage. Thinking about that, $1,500, and you own this now for 99 years, right? So it's just a remarkable way to look at things. And we talk about this Black imagery, right? But when here in Atlanta, of course, you go into a Walmart, you go into a Staples, you go into a Starbucks, you go into a car dealership. Anywhere you go, it's all Black people. All right. Any restaurant you could think of, it's all Black people. Right. And so that gives you a certain kind of comfortability. So moving from Trenton to Atlanta has given us a exhale. We were able to exhale a little bit, to be around people that are thriving and are willing to propel you forward. But going to Africa, you can now begin to relax in another type of way. The weather is great. All right. Even like where I was I was there just now in dry season. So for 6 months, it won't rain in Ghana. All right. It's just dry. It's just warm and dry. So that was the time, it's harvest season. Then you have 6 months of what is called raining season. Right. And so the fruits, the vegetables, the food are plentiful. All right. You can plant anything you want that will grow very easily. So now you can eat, farm to table. You can grow it and you can eat it. Where you can do that here in America, but most of us don't have enough land to really have a farm. We really have the time. I found that up north, many of us are really tied to our jobs. Makita and I had full-time jobs. We ran a school. Everybody I know up north works. Most people I know in Atlanta homeschool their children, and they don't have full-time jobs. Many of them are entrepreneurs, or they've created some type of economy where they can stay home with their children, educate their children, and maybe one parent work, one parent stay home, or both parents tend to have some type of, like I said, resources where they don't have to work. That's a tremendous shift. Whereas when our children were in Trenton, they were probably the only African-centered children, within their purview, whose parents were really living it and practicing it. And they came to Atlanta, and it's like my daughter has 12 of her friends this way. My son has 15 of his friends this way. My other daughter has 10 of her friends this way. And all their parents have already been to Africa. They've already had their children in African-centered schools. They wear African clothes. They have African names. So they're not an anomaly. Whereas in Trenton, the Kemet family was like an anomaly. It's like those are the African ones, So that's a different mentality, and then going to Africa is it just makes total sense in terms of supplanting the culture with your politics, with your spirituality.
Okay, that's true. When I left when I first went to a Black country, I first went to Haiti, and just it like you say, the relaxation is so much. You feel free.
Yeah.
Because it's all you. Doesn't matter where you go, what you do, it's all your people.
That's right.
And there's not that that can just cut you off. It's beautiful.
That's something I'm ready. I'm ready to experience.
Most certainly.
So Baye, I'm gonna be talking to you.
Most certainly.
Now you say you go, you take trips to Africa. You take people to Africa.
So yes, we have we have an export business, Sanko for exports and tours. So we sell African market products and what have you, but we also do annual tours, sometimes biannual. So every other year we'll do 2 trips. So this year is a biannual year. So we have a group that we're taking in July. We have another small group that we take in December. But every July we take groups to West Africa. We do a 2-week tour where we travel through Accra. We go to Koforidua, we go to Kumasi, we go to Cape Coast, Elmina. We take you to the slave dungeon. We take you to Kumasi, to the Asante people. We learn about the history of Ya Asantewaa. We learn about how the Asantewaa, fought the British. We sit with local chiefs. We eat the traditional foods. We go to waterfalls. We go to the beach right on the Atlantic Ocean. We go to Kwame Nkrumah's center. We go to Dr. Du Bois's house. So it's a cultural tour. It's a pilgrimage. It's a political Pan-African tour, and it's fun. All right, we have fun, So anybody that's ever gone on my tour, for the most part, they're going to tell you it's a great tour. They have fun. They enjoyed themselves, and they learned a lot. It's Ghana is just opened up, and ready for African Americans to come back, and not just Ghana. I mean, West Africa as a whole, but Ghana seems to be leading in that charge right now.
So Nigeria is on par with Ghana as far as acceptance of African Americans?
All West African countries are accepting of African Americans. Mm-hmm. Ghana has more of a lead on the comfortability that an African American might feel, right? Okay. So I would say like Ghana has the year to return. They already have many large what we call expat communities. So African Americans have gone and moved to Ghana, and many of them have gained their citizenship, right? So we know about our brother Diallo Sumbri from Trenton, who moved to DC. His father, Baba Aula, rest in peace. Mama Makini, their family was doing that Pan-African work in the 80s when they left African People's Action School and went down to DC. And so Diallo is the one that really took that Pan-African idea. And I mean, we sat and talked for 2 a.m. the other night, or maybe midnight the other night in the hotel. And his brother's doing everything. I mean, he had Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade at his installment as a Ghanaian chief, just recently. His brother is he's the director of tourism for Ghana Tourism to America. He's working very closely with African ancestry. If you do your DNA test through African ancestry and find that your lineage goes back to Sierra Leone, that they're offering African Americans citizenship in Sierra Leone. All right. And so there's a lot of things that's moving on the African continent that if we can start looking abroad, we're looking at our great-great-grandchildren being able to have a place, right? And then at some point, one of them may become naturalized there. They may marry a Ghanaian or marry a Nigerian or marry a Sierra Leone. And now their children are already naturalized. Now they already have citizenship. So we're there's a lot of things going on. I mean, I have people that's with me buying plots of land in Ghana. People are already beginning to look at their future and what it's going to look like, even at an early retirement or just starting to invest in some land over there.
Have you invested?
Oh, most certainly.
Do you have a plan to move?
We have a plan to begin to live there a couple months of the year. Like I said, I'm in Ghana quite frequently. 2-3 times a year. So I'm going to start, extending that time, overseeing the building of our properties and things that we're doing there, planting our flag. We also have a community center that we help develop in Osogbo, Nigeria. And so we also have a hand in Nigeria because we're Ifa priests. My wife and I, we practice Yoruba traditional culture. And so we actually have a hand in Osogbo and helping develop in there. I think that, like I said before, the money that we have here in America, the little bit of dollars that we have really goes a long way. And it'll go even further in Nigeria than it will in Ghana because the Ghanaian culture, the dollar, their CD, their currency is stronger than the Naira. And so it'll go even farther in Ghana than it will in Nigeria.
Okay.
Now let me go back a little bit now. Makita, your wife.
Yes.
Her mom, Mama Dino.
Yes.
Back in the day, and used to put on, just extravagant shows, African shows, And you're saying that it was hard for, to get into places like the museum or Patriot Memorial.
I wasn't around during Timbuktu dance. Their time period. I wasn't around. I was talking about Egun Omode when we were from 2008 to about 2016. We struggled with getting into places in Trenton. They were always just looking for something else. It was always just a struggle to. There were times that we would go to the museum on Wednesday because they would have programs for schools, and we're sitting in the crowd, and they would bring West African dance and drum companies to perform. We're like, how is this possible? Even some people have had events, see people in our culture have had events and they'll invite a group from Camden or they'll invite a group from Newark to come and do African dance and drum right in Trenton and wouldn't invite us. So we just was like, you know what? There's no need to continue to, knock this door down. Let's go somewhere else and join and help push something forward instead of trying to tear something down to get in, and you're not really wanted there anyway. You know, Mercer County is a very interesting place, and Trenton is even more interesting because it's nestled around a hub of racism. You talk about towns like Allentown, Ewing, Lawrence, Hamilton, Princeton, Robbinsville, Bordentown. I mean, you're just centered around whiteness, and that whiteness is not giving no space for African people, Black people, to develop themselves. In fact, we found ourselves more often in Trenton having to say, well, you know, this is for everybody, or we're not trying to exclude X, Y, and Z. Well, you don't have to apologize like that down here. I mean, people can literally say, we are targeting the X, Y, and Z community, or we're targeting these particular people and not feel ashamed about it. In fact, people will give you money because you're targeting these people because they know it is needed. But in Trenton, it was just very difficult, you know, to just say specifically, this is for Black people, or we're trying to do something to help Black people. But yet, one of the biggest challenges we have is with crime and things that are happening with the young Black children in Trenton. So we have to target them. We have to say it. We have to be unapologetic about it. And last, I would say that my brother Divine Allah was telling him when he ran for office this year, and we talked very candidly. And I said, Divine, they're not ready for you, brother. You know, they're not ready for a candidate like you. You know, they're never going to be just the name Divine Allah in Trenton, you will not be elected. If you run anywhere else in Chicago, Baltimore, DC, Atlanta, you could win with a name like Divine Allah.
And the thing is that it's like Black people aren't ready to accept Black people. You know, it's amazing that amazing like that. You know, because I find, you know, just being in the businesses that I've been in, that even right now with the parade, we're trying to say, we have to say something like, well, it's inclusive of.
That's correct.
But shit, you know,
yep.
It is for Black people. It is for Black people to stand up, to celebrate our heritage, whatever we've been through. And well, you know, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
And you know, running the Garvey School, I sum it up like this. Every year we had to start, like, so in Nguzu Saba, right? We have Umoja, Kujichagulia, right? And so forth and so on. Ujima, Ujima, Kuumba, Nia, and Imani. I don't want to shortchange any of them. And I would say that every year we had to start at Umoja. Every year we had a new group of children who had no idea what the Nguzu Saba was. There wasn't practice in their household. So every year we started at Umoja. And our children who had already mastered all 7 principles were not growing and developing. And so we said, well, what is the purpose of education anyway? The purpose of education is to secure the survival of a people. And our own children are suffering because we're trying to help other people's families. We said, no, the first line of defense is our family. And we have to step back and make sure our children are growing and develop in a certain way. You know, so that's another conversation for another time. But I think that the thought that is developing is that I find that we spend too much time out in the community trying to save somebody else's children when we really need to go and try to save our own families. We need to step back. We all need to go get our own children and start there. It's going to take 20 years to get out of the situation. So we have to start now. Okay. The more time that Baye Kemet spends out of my household trying to run this after school program, this Saturday program, this X, Y, and Z program, you know who gets neglected? Baye's children. You know, the more money I put out my pocket trying to help somebody else's child, my children are looking like, whoa, what about my birthday? You missed my birthday because you were doing an after school program for somebody else, or you were doing somebody else's house, or you were spending all this time and your children become neglected. And we was like, we didn't want that to happen. So the most important thing is that we have to get our own children.
Okay. You know, I'm glad you said that, because when you left Trenton, I was left back here saying, why my brother leave? You know, we need him. We need him. You know?
We had these discussions.
Yeah, you know, because, you know, losing a Black schoolman is and not losing one, but not having one is just terrible to our Blackness. But let me ask you this: where do you think
9 or 10? There are 9 or 10 in Atlanta, and there are another 9 or 10 or 11 homeschool co-ops in Atlanta. Easily.
Really?
Easily.
Really?
Easily.
Well, that's good. That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is.
And another 4 or 5 African-centered charter schools. Like it's proliferated in terms of people wanting to have that sense of culture for their children. So when we have Kwanzaa celebrations in Atlanta, there's like 10 to go to each day of the week. So we're trying to figure out which one we're going to go to and which one we want to do.
That's good. That's good. I'm
that sounds like something to be.
You know, I'm glad to hear that. So what do you think about the future of Black people in America?
Black people are going to always survive. I think that, again, as I stated before, is that we have to get out of the survival mode and get into the thrival mode, right? One of our Babas, Baba Sanyika, elder within the Council of Independent Black Institutions out of St. Louis, said he coined the term survival, right? So we have this notion of surviving, but we also have to begin to thrive. Black people are going to have to go backwards to go forward. We're going to have to go back and establish some collective rules of code of conducts, right? And we're all going to have to abide by them, all right? And so we're going to have to say, okay, first of all, children have to respect elders. That has been lost in our community. When I was growing up, you could not ever talk back to an elder. You couldn't curse around an elder. You couldn't disrespect them. You couldn't look, like certain things that were present in the past are not present anymore. So you have to have some just basic ground rules, right? But I think that it's going to be very challenging the more we continue to send our children to public schools and send our children to Catholic schools and send our children to people that don't look like us to educate our children. I'll say it very frankly, that there's nowhere on the planet where you'll find a predominantly white student population and a predominantly Black teacher population. Everywhere on the planet, you can find a predominantly Black student population and a predominantly white teacher population, because we ultimately think that white people can educate our children better than us. And white people know distinctively, instinctively, that no one else can teach their children better than them. So you'll never find a school where it's mostly Black teachers and mostly white students. And not just like white people, but the concept of whiteness, because there are many Black teachers who have adopted the concept of whiteness and the curriculum the same way. It's like
Memphis police
and control them with the textbook, right? But this notion of that we have a Black child, there's so many brilliant Black children that are being led astray because when they walk in the book, and they walk in the classroom and they see the textbook and turn to chapter 1, and that world history book starts with Mesopotamia and doesn't start with ancient Africa in its antiquity. The child is lost already. They're gone. You've already lost that child probably for the next 12 years, all right? Because they don't see themselves in the curriculum. At this point, we should have a curriculum that is specifically designed for our people to survive. It should deal with economics. It should deal with child rearing. It should deal with family development. It should deal with nation building. Like, yes, we should develop stores, shops, and other businesses just for us. And then our dollar can stay in our community longer, right? We have to really believe that. But then we have to teach that from the preschool level all the way up. And that's why our schools are important. We have science expos. Our science fairs are about the development of what? African problems and challenges and solutions, not putting a wire in a potato and putting it in the water and seeing it light up. Great. All right. Lewis Latimer already taught us that. But we have to create science that is going to be forward thinking 20 years ahead. And that's going to be specifically designed for the survival of African people. We see that on the continent. In Ghana, this brother created his own car, the Katanka. All right. He has his own fleet of cars, right? To go to Ghana, invest in that brother's cars and start making that car a worldwide car all over the world. That's just a small thing. I'm just giving you one example, right? But we need to really invest in the development of our own nation. And it's going to start in our schools. If you go to public school and they're not highlighting Black History Month, and it should be every month. But if they're not highlighting Black History Month, if you just go through the month of February like it's just any other month, that is criminal to our children.
Because we don't hear it no other time.
It's criminal. Your school's not having a Kwanzaa celebration or anything that's really developing the Black mind constantly. And a lot of times, Baba, we would send our children to African People's Action School for 4 years or 2 years. We'll change the school would change the child's whole academic profile, take the child out, send them back to public school, right? So no, we have to develop our children from pre-primary, primary, all the way up through higher education. They need to stay in a space that is developed for our people.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on reparations?
I think that reparations, and Brother Umar talks about this frequently, that it can't just be tied to the dollar. Reparation has to come with some land. Reparation has to come with a plan specifically for Black people. Black people need land. They should have rights to food. They should have rights to free education. Black people should have rights to free healthcare. Like, it can't just be money, because, you know, we already know that the system, they'll inflate the dollar. They'll start changing up certain things, giving all kind of incentive to run that money right out of our community. But we need something that's like a hard, something tangible that we can hold on to, like healthcare, like land grants, you know. But
what would you do with $1 million in reparations?
What can you do with $1 million?
No. What would you do with $1 million?
In America?
No, I don't care where you spend it. That's on you.
I would take it out of America. I would go to Africa, and I would, you know, go into a town that needs a well, that is just, you know, struggling. And I will go there and I will recreate that whole area, make it a whole eco-friendly area, develop it, farming. We will have solar panels. We will have all kind of things. And because the brilliance of our people, even in America, even in the depths of Trenton, there's a brilliant child that just needs an opportunity, that really can I'm telling you, when I go, Stacy brings me to Trenton quite frequently, Stacy Heading and Paula Bethea, and we in the schools. Man, these children are brilliant.
I know.
I mean, just the way they talk to you, they're charismatic, but the curriculum is killing their minds. They can't even think outside of just surviving the taunts, the teasing, the clothes being tattered. They've been hungry. They can't think forward like that. But when you go to other places, even what they consider to be poverty, children have a healthy outlook on life. They're thinking broadly because they're looking at it in reverse. I'm poor, but I'm going to go there one day. Our children are in the most one of the wealthiest lands in the nation, and they're not thinking broadly outside of America, right? They're thinking about how they can get rich in their communities, and more times than not, it doesn't turn out that way.
It doesn't work. Well, my brother, it's been great having you. It's been very good. One of these days, I know Michael wants to go to Africa with you.
Oh, you got to come, man. We got to.
I do.
You got to bring the whole family, brother. You got to go too, Baba.
I go. You know, I've never been to Ghana. I've been, you know, like South Africa and Zimbabwe, and I go. Matter of fact, I'm thinking about. I want to go do like a 5-nation jump, like land in Nigeria, go to Togo, Benin, Ghana, Sierra Leone, right on down. You know, boom. Spend a few days in each, just to get a taste of them. You know, because it's like you say, it's marvelous being around your people.
And I've always wanted to go to Africa and trek, you know, just get out there and travel freely, you know, not by airplane, by hiking, by car, by van, by train, and maybe from like Lake Victoria to Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, I mean, on our trips, we travel. It's not as much. We go 4 or 5 hours sometimes through the interior of Africa, man. You know, you get to see it all, you know.
You ever run up on elephants?
No, you know, it's funny. In West Africa, especially like in Accra, where I'm in Lagos and Osogbo, it's too densely populated. There are no animals around there.
When I was in Zimbabwe, we were going from Harare to, I don't know, wherever, the Victoria Falls. And you had to go through the jungle, and it was middle of the night. And we were driving along. You know how here you look on the side of the road, you might see some deer. Yeah. There were 2 elephants standing there. That just changes everything. I don't want to travel. I don't want to walk through Africa, because I was looking at another show, and these damn leopards came out and grabbed some people. And I said, I don't think I can do that.
We've seen baboons, but I've never seen anything exotic in the city. Like the places we go on our tours, no, it's a monkey or something like, but nothing exotic, you know. But I would end, Baba. Thank you for having me come. I would end by saying that we really need to again focus on our children. My children in college now, which we're very happy with. Our daughter Kosua, our son Ezekiel, both are attending Clark Atlanta University, and they're both doing wonderfully. And Kosua has traveled several times to Africa, She went with Clark Atlanta to represent the school, spoke on a symposium there in Ghana, represented our family very well. Yamfe is a tremendous drummer. He performed at Dance Africa this year at Brooklyn Academy of Music. I was just so excited. I flew up to New York and followed my 15-year-old son around all weekend, watching him perform. So that's amazing. I have 2 daughters. My daughter, Kanke, and Iorinde are just wonderful, doing great in dancing and what have you. My daughter, my youngest daughter, was in Coming to America too. And so that was just a tremendous experience for her to be on Tyler Perry's set. I actually came to Trenton that weekend. Stacy had me come up, so I was already scheduled to be in Trenton, but my wife went with my daughter. And she had her own trailer with a star on it that says her name. She opened her door. John Amos' trailer is there. Arsenio Hall's trailer is there. You got In Vogue walking by, Michael Blackston, and my daughter is on the set, and she was
great.
So we put Trenton on our back. Anywhere we go, we put Trenton on our back. And one of my neighbors is Shaheed Watson.
Really?
Yeah.
I wondered where the brother was.
I bump into Shaheed like every other month around here.
Well, you give him my greetings when you see him.
I most certainly will.
Appreciate it. Okay, it's been great having you.
Thank you, brother.
We'd like to get back with you again. Keep us up to date with what you're doing, and one day we'll go to Africa with you. How's that sound?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate. Thank you, family. Appreciate the harmonies. Thank you. And hey, keep hope alive, Baba.
Right,
yes, sir. Mr. Kemet. Have a good one.
Love you much and love your family.
All right, peace.
All right. Wow, that was nice.
Yes, sir.
Hey?
Yes, sir.
Hey?
From what I understand, it's really going down in Ghana too.
That's what I
Accra.
hear.
Accra.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. There's a lot going on over there. I would love to get there.
I want to go to Ghana, not just to see Ghana, but I don't know. I just want to travel all of it.
I want to do that trek from Lake Victoria to Mount Kilimanjaro. That's been on my mind for a while.
That's on the East Coast.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the East
Yes.
Coast. Watch out for them leopards, brother.
I think I believe I'm an East Africa type of guy.
Very good. I just like Africa. Okay. Well, it was good having Baye Kemet here, and next week we're going to have Daryl Brooks.
Mr. Brooks.
I do believe very controversial, man. He's one of those Republican conservatives,
Yeah.
He's my brother. I love Daryl. So we'll have him on here. We'll see what's up.
Yes, sir.
So you want to say goodnight to the folks?
Everybody, thank you for being with us here. We had a good show. Thank you, Brother Kemet. Thank you, of course, to my dad, Kamau. And I'm Michael, man. Have a good night.
Thank you, son. Appreciate it very much. And everyone, we will see you next week. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of your family, your old ones, some young ones, some in-between ones. Take care of the sisters, brothers. Take good care of the sisters, brothers. But the sisters always take good care of the brothers, so we don't even have to say that. You know what I mean?
Right. All right.
We need to take better care of ourselves and each other, because if we don't do it, ain't nobody else gonna do it.
Nah, nobody.
So, we love you. We do this because we love you, and that's the only reason that I do it. You know what I mean? I love you. Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone.
All right, Trenton. Talk to you. Peace.